Business news now on the programme. Stephen Carroll is with us here on set, and we're going to start in New York. Stock exchange there, Stephen. It's reversed the decision about stopping trading in 3 top Chinese companies, hasn't it?
Yeah, this was a decision that it had made just a couple of days ago, which had threatened to spark further tensions between the United States and China. Was a decision that originally came from the White House, but the New York Stock Exchange had begun the process of delisting China's 3 biggest telecoms companies. This was to comply with an executive order from Donald Trump, which had banned US investors from holding shares in firms that are alleged to have ties to the Chinese military. In a statement on Monday, though, the New York Stock Exchange said that it no longer intended to carry out the delistings of China Mobile, China Telecom and China Unicom, and that the operator would continue to evaluate the effects of the executive order.
Has it had any impact, Stephen, on the stock markets?
It's been pretty good news for the shares in those 3 companies that decision isn't going to go ahead to delist them. In Hong Kong, where those companies are also listed, we've seen sharp rises in their shares. Shares in China Mobile a short time ago up by almost 7%. This is the broader picture on the Asian markets. Gains across Shanghai, Hong Kong and on the Kospi and Seoul. Just the Nikkei in Tokyo dipping into the red, and that follows on from quite sharp falls that we saw in American markets in trading on Monday. Fears over the coronavirus pandemic weighing on investors there. We're also keeping an eye today on the price of Bitcoin. That's after it hit that record high over the weekend. According to CoinDesk, the cryptocurrency now trading for just over $31,000, down from that high of around $35,000 in recent days. We're used to seeing big price swings in Bitcoin. It'll be interesting to see what level this settles down at after this recent spike, whether it's going to hang on to that added value or to fall again.
We shall see. Let's stay with the markets. Monday was a much quieter day for trading in London because of Brexit, this?
Yeah, around €6 billion worth of share deals shifted away from London on the first full day's trading after the UK's transition out of the EU ended. The Financial Times reports that trading in companies like Santander, the Spanish bank, Deutsche Bank or the French oil company Total moved to EU marketplaces. And that means that more trades are being done in Paris, Frankfurt or Madrid. Before Brexit, up to 30% of trading in EU shares happened in London, but changes in regulation have pushed that back out onto the continent now.
Now, here in France, the skiing industry has seen most of its season wiped out, a bit like the skiers perhaps, because of the coronavirus pandemic.
Yeah, the current restrictions in France mean that no ski lifts or ski stations are open, although the slopes themselves remain accessible. Christmas and New Year are the peak season here in France for skiing. The industry says they only had a quarter of their usual visitors to ski resorts. Financial losses being estimated around €1.5 billion for that 2-week holiday period. The sector wants permission to reopen ski lifts as soon as possible, as Marius Sophos now reports.
A handful of tourists enjoying the freshly fallen snow and the sunshine at this ski resort in Saint-Lary in the French Pyrenees. For them, it's a unique experience to be on the slopes in such solitude.
C'est la totale liberté là. Il n'y a personne. Le rêve quoi.
There are far from enough tourists, though, to save the holiday season for residents whose livelihoods rely on it. Around 50% of the rental accommodation here has been filled, but with the closure of the ski lifts, the resort has only seen a maximum of 1,000 holidaymakers a day, compared to 15,000 under normal circumstances.
C'est du jamais vu et c'est pour l'instant catastrophique. On espère que la suite va nous permettre de travailler dans des bonnes conditions.
Despite there being nearly 2 metres of snow at the top of the slopes, the head of the ski school here has been forced to furlough nearly 70 instructors. He's eager more than ever before for the February holidays to come around.
Maintenant, il nous faut une date ou une décision, il faut quelque chose d'un peu ferme, quoi. Pour février, il la faut le plus tôt possible.
This resident hires out equipment. During the Christmas period, he's lost 40% of his usual turnover and was unable to take on the 7 employees that normally work here at this time of year.
On est bien sûr dans l'incertitude, on attend, on patiente pour savoir si nos salariés du coup vont pouvoir travailler aussi et puis pouvoir exercer notre métier correctement.
The nearby village has also been left high and dry by the pandemic. At Christmas, it lost €4 million in revenue, and those who work here are doubtful of a grand reopening anytime soon.
New York State is pressing ahead with increases to its minimum wage, despite objections from some employers groups who say that businesses can't afford it. Now, while all workers in New York City already have a $15 an hour minimum wage, the rest of the state is still catching up, with increases coming into force with the new year. The state government had the option to delay the rises because of the pandemic, but Commissioner Roberta Reardon chose to move ahead, saying that minimum wage workers had been disproportionately affected by the virus.
Now then, finally from Stephen, the Australian airline Qantas, let's be a bit optimistic, shall we, is hoping for return to international travel later this year.
That's right, they've opened bookings for international flights out of Australia from July. That's after halting all of its foreign routes last year. Australia has effectively closed its borders during the pandemic, grounding flights by companies including Qantas. The carrier says that resuming international flights will be subject to the start of vaccinations and the reopening of international borders, of course, by the government. Australia's Deputy Prime Minister is saying that travel will only be allowed when international arrivals don't pose a risk to Australians. July is, well, six and a half months away, maybe 7 months away now. I mean,
perhaps not surprising.
Who's to say where we'll be in that time?
Exactly. Well, if they do fly again, good for everything apart from the environment, of course. Stephen, thank you very much, though. Stephen Carroll with Business News on France 24.